Welcome back. We're talking food insecurity. The numbers we've seen so far, 31.8 million. So if you do the maths of 200 million, that comes to almost 20% of the population, and that's not a joke, which is why we had to bring a panel to have this conversation. That's how important the issue of food is. Look, Nigerians can cope with a lot of things, but not food. And any human being can cope with a lot of things, but not food, because it's basic of the basic of the basic. So when it affects food, everybody should be alarmed. We've been joined in the program by the chairman of All Farmers Association of Nigeria, Southwest Zone. He joins us via Zoom, Mr. Femi Oke. He joins us via Zoom, as well as Bountiful Atako, agripreneur. He joins us from Port Harcourt via Zoom, as well as right here in our Lagos studios, Gbemisola Longe, public policy consultant. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with you, Gbemisola, on this one. Your initial reaction when you heard or saw this number, were you shocked? How did it come to you?
So I had mixed feelings, to be honest. On the one hand, right, we haven't, it's not shocking that this is happening. Food insecurity in Nigeria has been increasing gradually for the last 5 years, right? So since 2019, we've seen a significant uptick. Actually, if we go all the way back to 2015, 2016, when there was a recession, but we won't go all the way back there. But essentially, it's gradually been increasing. Now, the 32.8% you're seeing, or 31.8% from, in July versus 18% in December 2023, that's number has increased as a result of, essentially, we're talking about people in acute food insecurity. Acute food insecurity means that the people are in immediate danger of health diseases, of
malnutrition.
Death. They're already malnutrition.
Right.
They already suffer from malnutrition, but they are, they're in immediate danger. They could die as a result of not having food today, right? But those people, we're already inching towards the difference of the 12, 13 million people. We're already inching towards that number since December. At the moment, 104 million Nigerians are facing some sort of food insecurity. Now, at different levels, different scales, right? So even the remaining 60, obviously 32 million people are in that 104 million people basket. But it means that the remaining 80 million, the remaining 70-something million people are just almost also suffering from acute food insecurity if care is not taken. So it's gradual, but then hearing the number, 32 million people, what's the population of Lagos State? That's the entire Lagos State being they're currently in immediate danger of not as a result of not having enough food. So it's still shocking, but it's something that has been gradually growing and has just been left to become as bad as it is today, essentially.
Let's take it to Mr. Oke on this one. All Farmers Association, I'm sure. So you're the guys that help us with the food to make sure it's available. So your reaction, then I will come to Mr. Atako for his immediate reaction, because we want to know how it hits some of the stakeholders, because we're all stakeholders. At least I'm a consumer, I'm a stakeholder, but you are the suppliers. You're also a stakeholder in this thing.
Yes, what is really happening about this acute food shortage, it's just all these grammars. We should have experienced it during the COVID. That time we never expected, and the thing happened. And look at the whole world. Look at how everybody was doing. Some measures should have been taken as at that time. Real measures should have been taken. Because when you say acute, it is what we see now we eat. It is not, most of what we are eating is not much hygienic. Look at those people selling food by the roadside. Where are all these local government sanitation people, all those who are going around? Are they being checkmate? Those are the things, is not hygienic. The area of it is, even we producers, we are not very happy with what we are selling, because people will come to complain. of cancer, of this. Are we the one? It is not our fault. Where are the agencies that are supposed to guide us? The fertilizers we are using, is it proper? The seeds we are planting, is it okay? And we are not talking of equity. The Yoruba will say, this all started for it's not. We are not happy about it. Look at the ratio, look at the number of which you are talking about that's having equity. So the governments of today, they have to take some measures now. There are some, the governors in the states have to have an emergency committees, especially to enhance the local government in doing what they should do in every aspect. We don't eat what we see. No, it has to be hygienic. Some years back, people goes around looking for, this place you are cooking is not hygienic. This place you are where your sewage is not being proper. Is it being done now? How many houses are we seeing? It's man to man. So when we are talking of even farmers, there are times when we even plant. There was a year we planted some maize, no single one germinated. No single one. Look at the labor, look at all what we did that time. Look at whom do we go to? Where do we go? Recently, the DSS was telling us that they have an agri sector in their office. We are very happy to have even delighted to even work closely with them, so that at least we have an agency that can take it up. That when we have hazard in the farm, we can easily call them to tell them these are where we could rectify. So farmers ourselves, we are part of the people, we are part of the populace, and we are not happy with what is really happening. Let us eat what we produce, but let us be guided. Let the guidance be there. Let the agencies do what it's supposed to do. Let some people that supposed to have worked diligently, if they fail, let them be replaced.
All right, Mr. Okay, let's take it to Mr. Atako in Port Harcourt. Apparently, there are multi-layers to these problems, from policy of government to issues of insecurity to the things that we may not be familiar with. So what's your interpretation, Mr. Atako, as to this acute food shortage or food insecurity, as we now call it?
Okay, good morning. So in 2021, I had just read the UN's report that Nigeria will suffer food scarcity, a booming hunger in 4 years, 3 to 4 years. When I read that report, I had said to myself, why are these people blowing things out of proportion? It's about 3 years now. It's 2024, and indeed we can't see, the effect of food, the shortfall that we have in food supply. We've seen how tomato went to crazy numbers in a matter of weeks. We see what happened with the onions value chain as well. We see how our yam prices are just all over the place. But we have seen this coming for some time. So I think that we should talk in the line of offering solutions. What can we do? We need to invest in knowledge sharing and knowledge transfer, extension services for farmers. Since farmers are growing less areas as it is, we need to make sure that they get the most of the yield, optimized yield that they can get from that area. We found that insecurity in some of the areas that our company, Alana Green Limited, is working, in the region, we found that insecurity has made farmers, shift away from the farms for some reasons. Farmers are scared to go in. They said, their mothers are being raped, their sons are killed, and all those kinds of things. And this has caused, particularly in Delta State, for the prices of Gary to go up. I'm sure that we all witnessed that change in the market. So in the lines of solution, we, in partnership with the Delta Special Economic Zone, and some of our partners as PIND, decided to do a capacity building and training program for farmers in the Sapele area. The reason is because the farmers have knowledge, it will transfer onto the farms, and that will significantly increase, their yields. Aside from that, we need to gather farmers' data. This data will help us make informed decisions. Farmers need to be more open, more forthcoming. I was in a training yesterday conducted by the Fadama Project in partnership with the Bridge of Hope Initiative to train farmers in River State. And they were speaking about, the first challenge they are facing is that the ADP, the Agricultural Development Program, staffs are not accessible to them. So we need to move away from political farming to doing the right thing as a country, or else we're going to face, the hard rampaging effect of food insecurity. As it is, the report I read last night says over 31 million Nigerians stand a chance of, looming hunger. So I wonder how we feel as a nation that we can't feed ourselves. So we need to adopt a multi-sectoral approach. We need to have more collaborations. The private sector needs to take the lead. Government needs to be more responsible. And then development partners need to start working with the people who can get the job done. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Our mission this morning is to begin to think of those solutions, proffer them, and see how workable they are. And we've identified some of the challenges. So there's a challenge with production, growing the food in the first place. There's a challenge of price. And in that report, which is called the Household Cater Report, I think that's the Cater Harmonized Report, pardon me. It also referenced the removal of subsidy as at the heart of this rising price of food items. Now we have flooding exacerbating the issue. Thousands of hectares of farmland being wiped away, and we just reported that this morning. The president is commiserating with them. But the point is, those farmlands probably had plants on them, most likely had plants on them, and there will be no yield, at least in the nearest future, until something is done. So clearly we have a multifaceted challenge on our hands. So I'll come back to you, Gbemisola, and we need to start thinking creatively. And I really hope that that's what is happening where it matters in terms of government, policymakers, and stakeholders. I really hope that they're thinking creatively. But just in case that's not happening, which I hate to believe, let us do that right here. What are the creative ways by which we can approach this? Maybe in terms of crop production, planting, well, subsidy is government, right? But let's talk about production, which is at the heart of this, ensuring that we have food, not eating what we see, but eating what we ought to eat, actually.
Okay. So one of the factors of, or one of the causes of Nigeria's food insecurity is low production and low productivity. Right. So the low production is caused by low productivity. So essentially, farmers are producing less than they used to on the same portion of farmland. And that's as a result of different things. Climate change is a big factor. Flooding, the floods are not, they're partly caused by poor planning, but also as a result of extreme weather conditions. So when it's hot, it's scorching. When it's rainy, it's overwhelming, right? So one of the key ways to sort of improve this is climate-resistant agriculture. And essentially what this means is providing new variants of inputs, whether it's seeds or fertilizers that basically cope with the new reality. Obviously, when it's scorching, there's like a new, there are different types of diseases or pests and diseases that farmers have to deal with. Earlier in the year, around May, there was the resurgence of the tuta absoluta tomato Ebola, yes. And that essentially caused tomato prices to increase by 200% in a few weeks, right? This disease, Nigeria experienced it in 2016, experienced it again in 2020, experienced it again in 2023, and yet in 2024, we're still suffering from the same situation, right? So essentially, these pests and diseases could be averted through climate-resistant agriculture. And I'll give an example of some of that. One is to basically produce more genetically modified products, right, or crops, right? So this typically, essentially the idea of it is, if you had a seed that couldn't cope with flooding before, a drought-resistant seed can cope with it. So producing, essentially like modifying the genetics of, the same way you would modify the DNA of a human being, and that might sound a bit extreme, modifying the genetics of a crop so that it begins to adapt with the current realities of weather. So if there's flooding, essentially, as long as it's not flash floods, right? Ensuring that these crops can basically cope with the new climate realities, the new harsh climate realities. Another, and there's a wide range of that. So sometimes it's even like, there's flood resistant, there's also drought resistant, right? So even though there isn't enough water, can this seed, that would typically have dried up as a result of, the dry weather or the heat, can it survive the heat this time? Especially because in Nigeria, a lot of our farming it's not irrigation based, right? We don't have a good irrigation system in many parts of, the farming communities in Nigeria. But apart from that, right, we also need to adopt sort of proactive, adaptive solutions. An example of that is insurance, agro-insurance. There's not a lot of agro-insurance going on in Nigeria, but there is actually, some of it is actually happening. This year, actually, some months ago, Nigerian farmers they got an insurance payout of over 100 million naira as a result of the ginger blight disease or something like that. And essentially what that means is using technology, using data to actually forecast what farmland yields should be. And when they don't hit that forecasted number, basically paying farmers the difference. Obviously, these farmers have to pay premiums. That's actually done through either the aggregators or the off-takers that buy from them, or through the farmers themselves, or through the governments, right? So essentially, this it uses, satellite data, uses yield tracking data to basically find out how farmers are faring. So, for instance, the tomato Ebola situation, if at some point the data, the satellite imagery data had reflected that, diseases or yields were starting to reduce, right, farmers are essentially compensated for that difference. And what that does is it gives farmers the required resources to plant again the next season. Because what happens is if farmers do not plant, or they lose all their crops or all their yield or all their resources they don't make enough money to plant again, essentially.
And 2 points you've raised. It's important to bounce this off the people. Genetically modified seedlings or seeds for either drought or flood, whatever the case is. We'll bounce that off Chief Oke, because that usually raises a red flag. But he's in the sector, he's a farmer. And the other part about insurance, I'm not sure. I want to know if you got the 100 million naira payout. But Chief Oke, 2 points she has raised. How workable are they on the one hand? And is that something that farmers are already implementing? And I'm talking about genetically modified plants. Is that something you're already buying into, or there's still that hesitancy? And we saw that a lot. And the other hand is the insurance, so at least help you stay in business and plant again. Chief Oke.
There's no way we could be left out of this insurance. But we farmers, except we want to deceive ourselves, we didn't believe much on this, their insurance. It is when they want to get money from you, they will come to you without any much possibilities of saying, bring all this, bring your mother, bring your father. But by the time you have the hazard in the farm, definitely the story comes up. But let me first start with the flooding of which we are experiencing now, especially in Kaduna. I can tell you today vividly that Kaduna is the major state that determines the price of maize. But with the flooding situation that we've experienced now, there's no way we are not going to have shortage of maize, especially the poultry farmers and the other people using the maize. Because when we talk about it, there's no state that is not being blessed in this Nigeria, that we know major thing that is coming up. But we have to look critically about what is really happening with ourselves. The map out should have been done. We've had the NIMET telling us the climate change has to be changed. Flooding, rain this year is going to come every day between August, September. And the governor of that state should have done a lot, should have done much, that the flood doesn't destroy the farmland. Don't let us deceive ourselves. We are supposed to be demolished. Let it be demolished. Where the irrigation, not irrigation per se, where the flood have to flow, let it be flow. Demolish most of all these houses so that it doesn't. The problem have now started. There is no way we are not going to experience shortage of food with what happened in that in Kaduna, because an average house, the poultry farmers are going to be, in fact, they are going to cry out. We talk to some state governors, not all the governors. They take measures. When rain is about to start, most of all those things, they should have taken the necessary measures to say this is what's happening. So that you don't wait until insurance. What is insurance? They will collect your money. And at the end of the day, before you even collect anything, pay back. It is stories. So let us take what is right to be done. Let governors embrace the farmers in their states.
Right.
All farmer organizations is the umbrella body. You can't run out of it. There is no way you could run out. And some governors in some states are doing well.
Well, Chief,
them to tell them where are their problems.
Chief, I was hoping you'll also speak to the GMO bit. Either drought resistance, seedlings and all of that. Is that something you're already using? So we can just bounce these issues off quickly, because there's actually a lot to speak to.
It's not accepted by we Nigerians, especially we farmers. But these biotechnologies that have been introduced, there's no way to run out of it. Like I told some other journalists when they were interviewing me, I said some years back, who heard about broiler chicken? We've never heard of it. We don't even know what is broiler. All what we eat is, but because of the population that is, if you look at the population of Nigeria, it's increasing every day. From 200 million now is going to 220. What do we eat? So the genetic modified organization is not, but we need the agencies in charge. The NAFDAs are there, the biotechnology companies, agencies are there. Let us sensitize us. The one that will not give us cancer, the one that we eat, the seed that we plant that will not give us hazard. We are ignorant. We are novice. Not many of us are learned. We farmers, if you see us in the farm, it is only few of us that God just says we are able to pass school. We don't need it. And what we are planting, what we are planting is from what we have experienced from our great grandfathers, and we are still doing it up to today. How many capacity building government is now introducing to us? Very few. It is only those who know. Those of us that lives in the village, what we plant. We don't even know what is genetic or what is not genetic. So please, we are saying organic one, like what we plant this year, we always reserve part of it for us to plant the next season. But now they are now telling us we should be buying seed. How many of us have the money to even conserve, to buy new seeds? So we are not experiencing it. So we are not adapting. We are not into GMO. We don't want it. But if it is good, let all those biotechnology, the Nigerian agencies for biotech, they are in Abuja there. Let us come out. Let the SON, Standard Organization of Nigeria, most of all those agencies, now that let them come together. Then let them inculcate farmers into it, and they should be briefed that if you use this seed, if this seed is being applied, it's not going to have any hard effect in your health. Definitely we will. Ours is to plant. And when we now plant, what do we do? It's for us to sell. For us to make money. But when we are now talking with all this grammar, and we are not seeing any guideline from any quarters, like some years, like I do tell some people, I said some years back when we were in the farm, we always see these extensions officers. They will come to tell you, oh, don't plant this, space this your maize, space this your farm.
Okay, let's just a minute. So let's also take you to Mr. Ataka on this one. Some of your responses. So what she had proposed, talking about GMO, we also need to speak to the issues of logistics as well, which is core as far as this whole food is concerned. When you try to posit it with food insecurity, there are layers of happenings and many moving parts that led us here. So we're here to identify it and look for solution. Atako?
Yeah, so it's important to note that creative thinking is really necessary at this point in time. Like he mentioned, it is important for us to find alternative solutions to what we are doing as a people. At this point, it's critical for us to stick to real-time, real-time data. It's important for us to make our decisions based on data and stop, this whole assumption or assumptive approach. First of all, I read one of the reports from the MBS that said, food inflation, I think month on month last month dropped, by about 2 points and all. I'm like, what is the basis, for this data? Because we hear what is happening with the maize value chain in areas as Ipanyango in Benue State. Maize is trading for 80,000 naira per bag, and this is new maize. The markets are just opening. If that will happen, soybean would open, somewhere between 90 to 95,000. And what will happen to the poultry value chain that we're talking about? Excuse me. These are the major inputs for that value chain. We need to attend to the issues on the ground. Policy. We need to talk policy. Agricultural policy needs to be updated. We need to review. Earlier in the week, stakeholders in the fertilizer industry met. The FEPSAN was also there. IFDC was there, of course, co-sponsored by the World Bank. And they were reviewing the fertilizer sector. From the region, West African region to Nigeria, down to localities. And parts of the problems that key industry players have identified is the lack of data, as they should be, and stakeholders are coming together to say we need to put more efforts in that direction, so that when we intend for solutions for farmers, we'll be able to create things that will work because we're getting feedback from those farmers in form of data. We will improve that using technology. It is important to note as well that I want to say thank you to the lady on the discussion as well for reminding us of our climate responsibilities. We need to adopt more climate-friendly solutions. We need to think irrigation farming. We need to move away from the one system of farming to growing 2 seasons at the least, because where we are as a country is no joke. We need to put our foot as farmers. Remember that we're food heroes. We have a responsibility to fight food insecurity, and we need more innovative financing to come into the sector. We need banks that will float and be focused in agriculture. We need insurance players as well to sit up. So I think, speaking from a private sector perspective, we need more serious businesses in the space. Thank you.
This is very important if we would want to have a bountiful harvest, right? Bountiful. I want us to listen to the Minister of State for Agriculture speaking about some of the things you talked about, particularly the insurance bit. Then we'll come to look at what we've seen play out in other climes, how they've handled this, and how we can replicate it here in Nigeria. So the Minister of State for Agriculture has this to say.
The National Agricultural Growth Scheme Agro Pocket Project is designed as a policy project to support food security in Nigeria. And we started last year dry season, where we had production of wheat. And the success we recorded, upon evaluation, we realized that there is an element that is missing, which is insurance or risk management. So what we are doing here today is, having discussed with all the critical stakeholders, we constituted a committee to develop a national agricultural insurance scheme under this program. The whole idea here is that we have farmers in various locations who will participate. What if they suffer crop loss? How do you attend to that issue? So this insurance program is designed to help them get something to at least recoup the losses that they may suffer.
So the Minister of State for Agriculture is speaking about a national agricultural insurance scheme. And Bimisala, I'll come to you now because Mr. Oke is quite skeptical about insurance. And I think it's understandable. I mean, he's probably had instances, experiences, and all. So clearly a lot of work needs to be done there because agriculture is actually a business at the heart of it. It's profit driven. When you make losses, you probably won't be able to reinvest and feed yourself. But I want us to also expand this conversation because we're obviously not the first country to face this kind of acute food shortage. I know India had a similar situation years ago, and now India has so much food that they're literally trying to slow down on food production. So maybe we can look at case studies. How did they get out of this acute food shortage? How can we imbibe that? And is there like a time frame we can look to and maybe give Nigerians hope?
Unfortunately, there's no time frame, but I'll just speak to a few things that I was going to say before and then jump into this. So the first is you mentioned things like storage and transportation. Those are very critical aspects of Nigeria's food value chain. In Nigeria today, we lose up to 30% of grains and 50% of tubers and roots, so things like yams, potatoes, to wastage as a result of poor storage facilities, poor transportation facilities, right? In Nigeria as well, the Lakaji corridor, or like road corridor, that's essentially from Lagos to Kano to Jibia. Essentially, that's a major transportation line or transportation corridor in Nigeria, and it caters to about 30% of the Nigerian population. Now, that's the major route through which food moves from the southern part, from the north to the south, and vice versa, right? But imagine if that major transportation hub, if there is a gridlock or if there's something that just, for instance, we've heard of situations where the Kano-Maiduguri highway is currently submerged as a result of the flood. We've had situations where different bridges and different roads in Kebbi states, in Kaduna states, are currently submerged with flood. So what happens in those instances, right? So solutions, which I was going to mention before, is actually moving. And I know that the government, the previous administration did a bit of work, improving the train lines from Lagos to Kano. One of the most exciting experiences I had with the trains was seeing actual cold storage carriages on those trains, on the train tracks. Now, I didn't see them moving. I just saw them on the tracks. So
just
I don't know.
Just to be clear, in Nigeria.
In Nigeria. So I didn't see them moving, but I don't know if they were actually functional. But that, in my mind, that was the potential for proper transportation of food across Nigeria. Now, that reduces the risk of accidents, reduces cost of transportation. And I say reduce cost of transportation because one of the major cost centers or cost components of transporting food from one part of Nigeria to another is informal taxes, right? So trucks carrying food are stopped by informal law agency or law enforcement, so people who have decided that they would collect taxes because you're passing their community, and that makes, some of them give out tickets and all of that, but that...
The so-called area boys.
Or
the good boys, sorry, or Jesus boys. Now, Lagos is calling them the good boys.
Even the police.
Right.
Right, so there's a huge network of informal tax agents that basically hike the cost of transportation or cost of moving food from one part of Nigeria to another. So finding solutions to that, and then the solution is not necessarily kicking all of them out of the roads or whatever, but creating alternative transportation solutions, trains. air transport is quite expensive in Nigeria now.
We had the Railway Corporation head in July, and he was speaking about cattle movement to begin soon. We'll do a double check to be sure it has begun. And I mean, the possibilities are endless. We can move to food, the cold storage, we can move to it, and that can reduce that. I just wanted to put that in and remind the Railway Corporation that we're coming to.
Yeah. So now to the question about
other clients. Is there something they've done that we can
creating solutions, right? So insurance. Surprisingly, insurance in the food sector in Nigeria, if you actually do a deep dive, many companies, many insurance, a couple of, not many, a few insurance companies have come out to actually declare that they've paid out, or they've declared insurance payouts to farmers. In 2022, when Nigeria experienced the worst flooding situation till date, we saw over 400,000 hectares of land wiped out. Many farmers actually got insurance payouts through the Anchor Borrowers program. But essentially, when we think about insurance payouts for farmers, it's different. It's different from farmers being called together and giving their money back, right? Because sometimes they don't even pay the premiums in cash. Right, they don't pay, by giving out money. Sometimes they pay through the inputs that they buy, right? So sometimes when farmers are being compensated for their loss, sometimes it's through inputs. Sometimes it's through the off-takers who, sometimes, let me just paint a scenario of how farming works sometimes in Nigeria. So you have a farmer who needs money to plant his seeds or to plant for the new season, and what does he need the money for? Seeds, fertilizers, labor, and all of that. So the farmer is sometimes giving cash, to pay for labor and, people who would clear the land and all of that. And in addition, giving seeds and fertilizers on credit.
All right.
Now, when this person is ready to sell, they essentially pay in form of their harvest and are paid the difference, in cash. So you collect seeds in credit, collect fertilizers in credit, give back those things through your harvest, and then the difference, obviously the harvest is usually like surplus, the difference is now paid in cash. Now, when you're not able to provide payback, in terms of if you suffered a loss or whatever, you are then allowed, not go scot-free, but then that's difference, that what you would have paid for is then given to the off-taker who provided the inputs to you, right? And apart from that, you're still compensated. So ideally, that's what's supposed to happen. The Anchor Borrowers program was a huge platform through which agro insurance was actually conducted. Now, there have been reports of that program being heavily politicized and farmers not reaping the full benefits of, the program. So that could be a reason. But insurance works. Another thing I'll just mention is the AFDB recently, last month, paid out, I think, $11.2 million to the Malawi government for the same insurance payouts as a result of the El Nino induced droughts that they faced, right? So these are initiatives that we've seen. Insurance is a big part of mitigating against losses, which is something that a lot of Nigerian farmers actually suffer from. So if we can...
Yeah, I know you have a lot to say, but let's take it with a guy in Port Harcourt to bring his input as well, as far as solutions are concerned. So there are myriads of solutions, just like there are myriads be the right word now, a lot of solutions, if you will, because of the different layers we have to deal with at the end of the day. So what is your own solution in winding down on this particular issue? Let me start with Mr. Oke, who is in the Farmers Association.
We've had what ministers said about insurance, which we have to adapt. Like I said, not many farmers take cognizance of it because we don't have much assurance, much interest in them. We go off what we are going to do, and that was why we are seeing the data that is very, very low. But as it is now, definitely we have to sensitize our people that insurance is key, but we have to still tell them it is not when we had losses and they are going to pay the following year. No. when things happen, insurance has to take immediate action. Not because the planting season we have in Nigeria, most of it is seasonal. Not many of us can do irrigation, so we have to wait until when the rain want to start. Every period has its own season. So please, the Honorable Minister, you have spoken well. We've heard of the insurance that we are going to, but let them come out. Let them tell us that we farmers, we are very happy to have it. Though we've been hearing much of it, Nike have been with us, but it is not immediate action that always been taken when we had some hazard in the farm. So immediately all these things happen, definitely let insurance take immediate action. That is our take home. That we wouldn't mind to insure our farmland, because if we have a bumper harvest and we don't have any issue, everybody will smile. Even the populace will be very, very happy about us. But for us to have spent much money on insurance and we had flood, and we now call them to now tell them we're having all these issues, we have to start asking us until 2-3 years for us to be paid. It's not a welcome development. So let actions be taken on it. Let most of the committees that have to be set up, let farmers be included. Let them come. Like to what Mr. Otaki said, the last fertilizer that was just being reviewed, we were told it's every 5 years. And it's a national issue, not only Nigeria. The Nigerian government has to send Federal Minister of Agri there. I was there. I am this thing. The World Bank conducted it. And we have to do that review just last week here in Abuja. So let things be put in place as at when due. Let me stop there.
All right, let's get to Mr. Tako. Can we reverse this? Because that's a question that Kayode had asked. Other clients, they face this situation, and we've seen results in terms of reduction or reversal. Where should we be heading in your books?
Okay, so like time and time again, I will speak from a private sector-led approach, because I believe that the private sector and young people hold the potential that the agricultural sector in Nigeria needs to transform. I do firmly believe as an individual, and I've also read through the AFDB 10-year strategy document, and I've seen that is where the bank is benchmarking their hope on. You get me? So we need to think about building an ecosystem, one where we have farmers, of course, grouped in cooperatives or clusters, who we as private sector companies would see as our farmers. We'll find a way to also build the infrastructure that they need, to thrive, irrigation, mechanization, quality fertilizers. From that workshop and I think I just remember seeing the Southwest chairman, in that workshop we learned that the current usage of fertilizer today is 24 kg per hectare. It's over 100% below, 150% below the Food and Agriculture Organization recommendation for fertilizer usage. So we have work to do. We need to be responsible. We need to see this as serious business that it is. Young people need to work tirelessly in their sectors, be it technology, be it finance, and all of that, to see how they can identify opportunities in the agricultural sector and tap in, lock in. We need to become more climate responsible. Like I said, farmers need to open up for the right training and hand-holding. And, there have been a trust deficit between the governments, the farmers, companies, the farmers, development initiatives, and, the people involved. We need to start healing, start engaging more, opening up. Proper communication also would help. You were talking about the issues of GMO initially. I don't have an official position on that because I'm still doing my research. There are a lot of good sides to it. There are also the downsides to it at this point, which I don't intend to discuss as of this time. But the government has a responsibility to their people to educate them. You need to speak about these things. You just don't introduce something that has this high level of controversy as a nation going through a lot. Look, when I read that UN report on food hunger in 2021, they projected 25 million people. And the last document I read last night on this same issue, I think it was published by The Guardian or so, is talking about 31 million people. That's 6 million people on top, over 20% increase. So if we're not taking this thing seriously enough, then we're in for a long one. So we need to build that ecosystem, like I was talking about, adapt more climate solutions. Okay. We need to move with global trends.
Okay. Absolutely. A lot has been said. The whole idea is to ensure that people don't die when they shouldn't. This is an avoidable crisis, though it's been building for many years, and it's now time for government and the authorities to come to the aid of the people and do the best they can with the stakeholders so that consumers and citizens like us will not suffer the consequence of all of this. We must thank all of you for coming on the program. This is Afemi Oke, All Farmers Association of Nigeria, Southwest Zone. Thank you, sir, for coming in. He's the chairman, as well as Bountiful Atako, agripreneur, and right here in our Lagos studio, Gbemisola Alonge, public policy analyst. Thank you.
Thank you
all for coming on the program. Lady and gentlemen. Thank you so much. All right, we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll talk about road transportation, the things you need to know, both as a commercial or private driver, and all of the angles we've not been looking at, maybe flouting the laws that we don't even know. The authorities will be here to explain all of it to us right here on the program. Join us again.